prominently featured, because guess what? It's a bunch of dudes, and I do not appreciate that.
Did you just call me a woman? I'm legally a man.
Are you?
Yes.
Information that turned out to be so false and fake out. I think it's a disgrace. And I say that, and that's something that Nazi Germany would have done and did do. I think it's a disgrace. That information that was false and fake and never happened got released to the public. As far as BuzzFeed, which is a failing pile of garbage, writing it, I think they're going to suffer the consequences. They already are. And as far as CNN going out of their way to build it up, and by the way, we just found out, I was coming down, Michael Cohen. Michael Cohen is a very talented lawyer. He's a good lawyer in my firm. It was just reported that it wasn't this Michael Cohen they were talking about. So all night long, it's Michael Cohen. I said, I want to see your passport. He brings his passport to my office. I say, hey, wait a minute. He didn't leave the country. He wasn't out of the country. They had Michael Cohen of the Trump Organization was in Prague. It turned out to be a different Michael Cohen. It's a disgrace what took place. It's a disgrace. And I think they ought to apologize to start with Michael Cohen.
Since you're attacking us, can you give us a question? No, Mr. President-elect.
Go ahead.
Mr. President-elect, since you are attacking our news organization, can you give us a chance?
Your organization
You are
is
attacking
terrible.
our news organization.
Your organization
Can you give us a
is
chance
terrible.
to ask a question, sir?
Go ahead.
Sir, can you state, Mr. President-elect,
Go ahead.
can you state
She's
categorically,
asking a question. Don't
Mr.
be rude.
President-elect, can you give us a question?
Don't be
You're
rude.
attacking us. Can you give us a question?
Don't be rude.
Can you
No,
give
I'm not
us a
going to give you a
question?
question. I'm not going to give you a question.
Can you state categorically?
You are fake news.
Sir,
go ahead.
Can you state categorically that nobody... No, Mr. President-elect, that's not appropriate.
She has called me names and insulted me just for sitting down the seat saying that I came here to celebrate today.
Is there going to be a problem?
I would like for him to change seats with someone.
No, I'm going to get somebody. Well, you don't have that right. So I will get somebody to come and talk.
You pretend you have the moral high ground, but you put that man's finger on the nape of your butt. That man doesn't believe in climate change. Do you believe in gravity? Did you know gravity is just a theory?
Gravity belongs to me.
Right. Where?
We're going to have to think about the same right there. Gravity belongs to come from me. Gravity belongs to come from me.
I paid for this seat and I'm sitting. He is in my space.
She's causing hostility.
You just want to do it. I need you gravity belongs to come from me. That's what it looks like.
I'm going home now. My mother-in-law, his mother, died. He had to be here. I'm going home. There is no way I'm getting off this.
That issue was afraid, and you are going to see a lot of issues right now.
Fine, I'll be quiet. I'll be quiet.
You're not going to be able to do this. I'm not going to allow that either.
I talked to the captain.
Captain, okay. So this was Captain involved as well. Right, but after that, you read it wrong.
I'm going to report on my own bed tonight after being at my mother-in-law's.
Unfortunately, not only one. You can get your report from something else and see what else we have. I can't be on this.
My husband lost his mother. Have some respect.
I'm terribly sorry for that, but that does not give you the right to treat people the way you treat them. What if we trade seats and the quiet down? How would that be? Primarily at this point, the captain has already been called. The captain doesn't have his job. What y'all say?
I'll try that.
Please ask him again if we settle down, if that can be okay.
My husband lost his mother.
Sorry. I have to get one more in.
Oh, he does? Okay. Call the church? Oh. Call the church?
Yeah, we're going to talk about the plans.
That's going to be both of us.
Okay, come on out.
Okay, talk to us out there, please.
Yeah, that means the plane's going to close the door, doesn't
Okay.
it? Doesn't
Yes, talk to us,
it? Yes or
please.
no?
You want to talk to us out there? Go ahead.
I want to ask yes.
We're not in charge of the plane. We're asking you to step off the plane now, please.
Yeah, 255. Go ahead. 1021, where you're
about you?
I'm American. You're a citizen. Keep on walking.
Hold me from going to work because you guys are crying bitches that you lost, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Is that what it is? Okay,
Yeah.
just checking.
Yeah.
Out, please, sir.
Come on, babe. Let the ladies through. Thank you.
Fuck down your roadblock, you piece of shit. Fuck him. Fucking do it again, bitch. Well, yeah, I'd be a big man with a fucking weapon too, huh? Let's go, bitch! Hey, yeah, hit a lady! I don't give a fuck! You hit me, you hit back! You just hit a fucking woman! She don't look like a woman to me! Get out! You got people trying to do their job and going to fucking work! Hit women! You got like some of the shit on me!
Back up.
You gonna arrest that motherfucker or what?
Back up.
He just punched a woman in the face. You're not gonna arrest that piece of shit? I have it on. You're arresting him for standing up for her, and you're not gonna arrest him.
Oh, your guy's a good journalist. Fake news. Look.
Fake news. Just do your job, man. I'm trying to get okay?
That's right. That's journalism. It's better around here.
Are you okay? Are you okay? You should be fucking ashamed. You should be ashamed.
Your mommy throwing you out of your basement or something? Oh yeah, give me the finger.
We are the workers. We make this society function, you piece of shit. You bourgeois fucking cunt.
Bourgeois and worker in the same sentence.
Suck my fucking cock. I'll piss on your grave, old man.
Probably sucked up the phone.
Your fucking cronies just punched a woman. You fucking bitch.
Oh, you were here for the courthouse.
Can I speak to my comrade for a moment?
Back up.
Can I
speak? I'm not going to say it again. Back up.
It's best not to.
Where? What?
That's it. Right there.
Oh. Wow, that happened really fast. Aw, come on, guys. Please don't arrest him.
Now. We can't help him until he's. We can't help him until he can call us. He's gonna have to call us from jail for us to help him.
We might. You need medical attention?
He really didn't do anything. I got punched in the face. He was just trying to stop that man.
She was punched in the face unprovoked and he defended her. You can't arrest him for
Would you like
that.
to see the guy's still there?
The guy who punched her in the face unprovoked is still there.
We got EMTs right there.
No, sir.
But you shouldn't arrest that guy for defending a woman being assaulted by a grown-ass man.
Come on, see,
That
they
is
punched
not
me in the face.
fucking law
Make me.
enforcement.
Do it. I already got punched in the face once.
Can you step back for me, please?
You're gonna arrest him for nothing?
Step back.
For defending a fucking woman from assault. You're going to arrest him. For defending a woman
Why
from an
isn't the guy that
unprovoked
punched me in the
assault by
face
a
on the
grown
ground?
man,
What
you're
did I
going to
do?
arrest him. That is the case. That is what's happening. Yes?
You can say whatever you want to say. We're supporting free speech.
Okay, look. If a guy is going around talking about genocide and like harming a whole group of people, yeah, that's pretty.
Milo has committed genocide.
No, but he talks about it.
He talks about committing
And
genocide.
he stands by people that do.
He stands by Hitler. Who has he stood by that has committed genocide? Name one person.
I don't okay. Look, I don't have my phone on me, obviously, so I'm not going to memorize the name
You
of
can
something.
Google it. I can give you time to Google it and see who is it that Milo supports that commits genocide.
Just search it up. What I can tell you what I think. Dude, not what the media told me, not what freaking anyone in the news told me. I seen it, what he does. He says really awful shit. A couple of people that met him, he says really awful shit.
He says that we shouldn't censor opinions.
Even if those opinions harm people,
How can something that you say harm somebody?
it does.
How? It hurts a person's feelings?
Not only a feeling, but look, ideas have power. They become reality.
Okay, I've never seen Milo punch anybody, so...
No? But like, he just says stuff that is wrong.
People have protested his events, though, before, and they have gotten very violent, so...
Yeah, I know. Because like, who the hell wants to see this piece of crap guy?
So, how do you say that some people don't have privilege when you basically just said that trans people aren't valid? They're not a thing. They're just girls pretending to be boys or boys pretending to be girls.
Okay.
Like, okay.
Oh, someone's excited. Okay.
Biological, but gender is a completely different thing.
No, gender is not disconnected from sex. So.
It's not completely disconnected, but it's still a cultural thing. It's still from society. It's
Okay. No, it is not in the mind. Okay, you're not a man if you think you're a man. And I didn't say pretending, or if I did, I shouldn't have said pretending. Let me amend.
You said playing.
Okay, I said a boy who thinks he's a girl. That's the usual phraseology I use. Not playing. I usually say a boy who thinks he's a girl or a girl who thinks he's a boy, which is technically what we're talking about here. As far as the actual psychological issues at play, it used to be called gender dysphoria or gender identity disorder. Now they call it gender dysphoria. The idea that sex or gender are malleable is not true. Okay, and I'm not denying your humanity if you're a transgender person. I am saying that you are not the sex to which you claim to be. You're still a human being, and you're a human being with an issue that I wish you Godspeed in dealing with in whatever way you see fit. But if you are going to dictate to me that I'm supposed to pretend that men are women and women are men, no. My answer is no. I'm not going to modify basic biology because it threatens your subjective sense of what you are.
Okay, but you're still saying these kids should like not be accepted because they don't really fit in either place. They can't just like.
I'm saying that the Boy Scouts have a standard. You must be a biological boy to be a Boy Scout. You have to be a boy to be a Boy Scout.
Where's that written though? Okay.
In the name Boy Scouts. Because this is a very because for all of human history, boy meant boy and girl meant girl. Boy did not mean girl. And if I call you a moose, are you suddenly a moose? Okay, if I redefine our terms. No, yes, that's right. Men and women are a completely different thing. This is true. Have you ever met a man or a woman? They're completely different.
You can't just say you're a cat. It's not a thing. It's genders. It's not saying you're.
Okay, why is that? I don't understand. Why? Okay, let me ask you this. Okay, I won't ask you how old. I will ask you how old you are. Okay, because you're young enough that it's probably not insulting to ask you. So.
I'm 22, so I'm probably only naive, right?
No. Why aren't you 60? Why aren't you 60?
Because it.
And why can't you identify as 60? What is the problem with you identifying as 60?
It's not the same as gender. You can't just.
You're right. Age is significantly less important than gender. You can't magically change your gender. You can't magically change your sex. You can't magically change your age.
You can still legally change it. People recognize.
You can't legally change your age, by the way.
Obviously, you can change your name, you can change your sex, you can change your identity.
Just because you can do things legally doesn't mean that they are correct biologically. You could do lots of things in the past that were incorrect biologically and correct legally. For a long period of time in the United States, sterilization of the mentally ill took place. That didn't make it okay. Skinner versus Oklahoma. Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes wrote the decision.
Right. I still don't understand how you're accepting these children that are.
It's not a matter of open-minded and accepting. I want them to get treatment that they see fit, but that's not involving me. The idea behind the transgender movement as a civil rights movement is the idea that all of their problems would just go away if I would pretend that they were the sex to which they claim membership. That's nonsense. The transgender suicide rate is 40%. It is 40%. And according to the Anderson School at UCLA, it makes no difference. There's a study that came out last year. It makes no difference, virtually no difference, statistically speaking, as to whether people recognize you as a transgender person or not, which suggests there's a very high comorbidity between transgenderism, whatever that mental state may be, and suicidality. That has nothing to do with how society treats you.
Do you think it could be because of they're bullied at school?
No, I don't think that. I do not think that the discrepancy. First of all, I'm against bullying of any sort. Okay, the idea that somebody would beat somebody up is terrible. Okay, as somebody who's viciously bullied in high school, I'm not a fan of bullying. But the idea that the normal suicide rate across the United States is 4%. The suicide rate in the transgender community is 40%. The idea that 36% more transgender people are committing suicide because people are mean to them is ridiculous. It's not true, and it's not backed by any science that anyone can cite. It is pure conjecture. In fact, it's not even true that bullying causes suicide, according to a lot of studies. For example, in the black community, where the idea is supposedly that America is a racist society, blacks are bullied a lot. Okay, in the black community has significantly lower suicide rates than in the white community. In fact, in third world countries, the suicide rate is significantly lower than in first world countries. Suicide actually seems to be a privilege of the upper classes if you actually look at it from a financial perspective. So the idea that suicidality is directly a result of people like me saying, no, men are not women and women are not men, it's not true. It's also...
So you think it doesn't impact their identity at all, or their depression, or how they feel about themselves?
I think the idea that you're going to sacrifice the entire society's proper definition of sex because you think that there is in legal terms, somebody with an eggshell skull, meaning that somebody who has a pre-existing condition that makes them more susceptible to criticism, that is not a way to run a society. You can't sacrifice truth because some people are going to actually suffer because of the truth. Plus, there's no evidence whatsoever that the suicide rate would go down in the transgender community in any marked way if people just started pretending that men were women and women were men. We're trying that experiment now. We'll find out whether it works. So far, no evidence.
Have you talked to a group of trans people at all instead of this group of like white people?
I'm more than happy to talk to a group of any people who will have me, but usually they protest me.
So just in case you didn't read it, here's a part that you might agree with. I thought of you when I read this, actually. And here's what his first executive order on the refugees says. The United States should not admit those who engage in acts of bigotry or hatred, those who oppress Americans of any race, gender, or sexual orientation. Do you agree with that?
So I'm curious about how that relates to the 7 countries that was put on the travel, immigration, refugee ban that's currently in place.
What are the 7 countries?
It just seems that if you're going to take... you're asking which of the 7 countries?
Yeah, what are the 7 countries?
Oh, you've got like Iran, Iraq. I can't list off all of them, but it lists off 7 countries.
Right.
There's 5 others. I believe that Turkey's probably on it. Syria's on it. Okay, well, Syria's on it.
So what is your formal education background? So I guess a lot of people don't know what your undergraduate degree was in.
So I was at UCLA in political science and then Harvard Law School.
Okay. So you don't have, you wouldn't consider yourself an expert in sociology?
I mean, I don't consider sociology a particularly expert field, but go ahead. I think I'm able to read a sociological study.
Study, but so you're not necessarily an expert.
Yes, there are lots of fields of study.
Right. Well, what I'm getting at is there's a lot of topics.
Let's put it this way: I know a lot less about welding than I do about sociology.
What I'm getting at is that you're not considered an expert in sociology, psychology, gender studies, lesbian dance theory, many of these things that you've brought up tonight.
I know a lot more about all those others than lesbian dance theory. As far as, if you want to take issue with the argument, I would urge you not to use the argument from authority, which is somebody has a PhD by their name, they know what they're talking about. That's a dumb argument.
What I'm trying to get at is that the fact that you have any other further education in any of these topics or any of these fields of study.
I don't need a 7-year degree in sociology, no bullshit when I hear it.
And granted, that's your opinion.
Right, because I'm here, yeah, giving it.
That would mean that you're also offering kind of an unqualified opinion on a lot of these topics.
See, again, you're just making the argument from authority. I don't think slapping a PhD from Ferris State next to your name makes you an expert in all things in the field in which you propose to speak. Okay, the fact is that either my argument's good or my argument's bad. Citing to my credentials is a really bad way of making an argument. It's like it's actually the equivalent of, it's so funny, when people do this, it's the equivalent of actually a religious person saying, citing to the Bible for an argument. I'm a very religious person, right? I mean, see this? It's the yarmulke, okay? I'm a religious person, okay? I never cite to the Bible. The reason I don't cite to the Bible is because that's an argument from authority. Okay, you may not believe the authority to which I'm citing. I don't believe the authority to which you're citing. So you're going to have to make me an argument as to what I'm saying that's wrong instead of just saying I don't have the properly enumerated degree from the institution of your choice.
And I am saying that Donald Trump is not only a monster, but he's a coward. We're talking about somebody who is so emasculated by Vladimir Putin that he has to.
All right, I'm going to have to stop you there because now we're getting off in a crazy world.
That he has to come back and pick on vulnerable kids. Okay, these kids are the most vulnerable children in the country.
Slow down a sec. Let's get to the core of the issue.
Absolutely.
Look, I get that I'm never going to get you to say that Obama should have done it. That's fine. Let's move from the politics to the science, because this policy has implications that go far beyond bathrooms and locker rooms. The core question is what constitutes male and female. And the implication of these guidelines that Obama put in place is that A man is someone who says he's a man, and a woman is someone who says she's a woman. You get to decide your gender. There's no biological anchor to sex anymore. It's all determined by the individual. So my obvious question for you is, how do I know if a person's male or female? Is there some other absolute standard that people have to meet to be male or female, other than what they say?
One's gender identity is enough to show what gender they are. And so if you're confused about that, I mean, I leave that, to your level of enlightenment
No, it's not about enlightenment. It's not about moral status. This is a real question because there are all kinds of institutions in American life that function on a sex-segregated basis. Women's college, sports, both professional and amateur, prisons. And so you're telling me that I can play on a women's sports team when I say I'm a woman.
What we are saying is that in this guidance with public schools, which we're and the vulnerable kids that are there, that there are specific guidelines that these teachers and these supervisors and these principals asked for in how to create safe.
Okay, but now you're going back to the first question. You just said a second ago that
that is what we're talking about.
No, let me take you back 3 sentences. When you said gender identity is determined by the person who possesses it. That's almost exactly what you said.
Correct.
And I'm saying there are massive implications of this that everyone is either too dumb or too embarrassed to explore, but let's do so now. If your sex is what you say it is, then what prevents me from playing on a women's field hockey team? What prevents me from getting convicted of a felony and demanding to go to a women's prison? And it's a real question.
It's not a real question.
Why is it not a real question?
It's not a real question because it is pretty absurd, and there are no other examples.
Because why?
Because there are no examples of this. What
do you mean?
I'm sorry, but there are no examples. This is the same argument about saying that this will allow sexual predators to go into women.
I'm not making that argument.
Yes, but you are making that argument.
Okay, what I'm saying is, I just want to know what the standards are. I'm not actually making any claims. I'm merely asking a question, and I want you to answer.
Yes, the standards are
Is there a scientific standard? Because when you deal with questions of biology, that is a species of science. So what's the scientific standard? I'm a scientist. I want to know if you're a man or a woman. How do I find out?
Look, these are discussions that I encourage you to have with someone who is transgender, and they can come and talk to you about.
I don't need that to speak to a trans. I can speak to you because you think about this stuff for a living. So it's a very simple question.
Yes.
I want to know if you're a man or a woman. I'm a scientist. How do I find out?
Your gender identity determines your gender, period.
Okay. So should someone who looks like me, I look like a man, you think I was a man, I say I'm a woman, and I demand to play in a women's sports team, I demand to go to women's college, I demand a small business administration loan for women-owned businesses. That's a real thing. That's $1 billion question, for real. Can you turn me down if I say I'm a woman?
The question that is on the table right now is about Title IX.
Let's not
and about guidance. No, but you want to go off on
Title IX applies. It's not a tangent. Title IX applies and was created around the question of women's sports. So, as a apparent man, if I say I'm a woman, is that enough? Do I meet the standard as a woman to play in a women's sports team? That goes right to Title IX. Don't dodge the question.
I'm not dodging the question. This is something the Supreme Court is going to be looking at next month. And yes, the answer is absolutely yes.
Okay.
Gender identity determines one's gender.
Let me ask you
period.
this.
And this is a matter of civil rights.
Is there science behind this? Because I know that I'm often getting
science.
Really,
absolutely science behind
I want you to name a single scientist, just one, who says you can determine your own sex just by saying so. Can you name one scientist who says that?
I'd be happy to send you many after.
A scientist who said you can determine your own sex, an actual scientist, like someone who went to college.
Listen,
are you serious?
You clearly have some issues around this.
It's not an issue at all. I have questions that you can't answer. And you're instead throwing things like you're not enlightened. I'm asking you a sincere question. What's the science behind this? And you're deflecting. Why?
I'm simply not deflecting. This is a matter of settled science, and it is something.
What's the science exactly? That you are what you say you are? Can I change my race too? And don't dodge that question. That's a real question.
No, you cannot.
Why? Why can't I change my race, but I can change my sex? What's the difference?
It is not about changing. It is not about changing.
But why isn't it?
This is about inherently who people are.
Really? But if I say I'm inherently of another race, who are you to say I'm not?
I mean, again, you're getting into these silly hypotheticals.
It's not silly at all. 2 years ago, nobody thought you could change your own sex. And you're saying it's settled science.
One that is simply not true. We have had transgender protections in this country.
But you haven't explained what transgender is. You're just saying it's whatever we say it is.
Look, you want to go into this in this right-wing pseudoscience.
It's not right-wing at all.
It absolutely
It's pseudoscience, right? You name. I will give you $1,000 if you can find any scientist, like an actual biologist, at an accredited American college, willing to come on this show and say, Here's the science. Here's the state of play of biology 2017. Name your section. That's what it is.
I don't understand.
You can't.
I
There's
don't
no
understand
science.
why you won't answer the question
I'll answer
about why.
any question always.
Excellent. Why shouldn't schools who are asking for it get guidance on how to create safe environments for all their kids?
I would say
why
that guidance exists. It floats on the internet, and if it's merely guidance, then the federal government needs no more to do with it. They can say, here's our guidance. You're undermining your own argument, which was weak to begin with.
If it is as simple as that, then why do you care so much?
Unfortunately, we're out of time. I'm actually enjoying this, but I want you to produce the scientists, just one. And let's make it Harvard, and I'll give you $1,000. And I'm not attacking anybody. I'm just asking the question.
Abolishing a minimum wage is, an insult to those who are working for already low wages.
But how does that affect you? You live in Canada, not America.
America is an empire. It affects every square inch of the earth.
But he's not even your president. Your prime minister is just Justin Trudeau.
As you said in your speech, you've been a proponent of shale gas hydrofracking. How can you support this when the Environmental Protection Agency has proven fracking has poisoned hundreds of ground wells? Or taking into account that our continual dependence on natural gas only exacerbates the climate crisis? Because the methane leaks makes it worse than coal. In September, you spoke at a natural gas industry conference in the convention center, showing your ties to the fossil fuel industry and your priorities with the corporations rather than with the American people.
One more time. What?
Please let us finish.
No, go for it.
You called shale gas developers the pioneers of the future. But the truth is, they're not the future. We are. We're here to represent the students and the youth who refuse to live in a world that promotes injustice, environmental degradation,
I just want to know
and
something.
corporate control.
Okay, can you tell me something?
Please let us finish. Thank you.
Go ahead.
I stand with the frontline communities and all of the individuals who have had their land destroyed and their water contaminated by destructive industries. And I'm here to say that I don't think that you stand for what's best for our planet or for the American people.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Since you're the future, by your own definition, what's your energy solution?
Is locally owned, renewable energy for the people, by the people, not for corporate profits.
What kind of energy?
Localized wind and solar.
So wind, which kills more birds than any other energy system.
That is inaccurate.
It is. Would you like to guess how many birds are killed by wind? Enough that the current administration is actually exempting them from federal laws, which would put them in jail for the number of birds they're killing.
I'm sorry, but I think you should agree that the American people are a little bit more important than birds.
Ah, the American people are more important than birds? Okay.
But I will say that the tailings ponds.
I like that. I can't wait to report to the Sierra Club that I have been at Amherst and had somebody explain to me that people are more important than birds. This is a revolutionary moment.
Now, let me tell you something. None of Trump is American. All of his family, all of his wives, everything of him is immigration. His wife is from the Czech Republic. Is he trying to kick her out?
No, of course not.
His parents aren't American, trying to kick them out?
No, they moved illegally.
His children, they aren't fully American, they plan to kick him out?
Pretty sure that all these people moved here legally, though.
Okay, so you're saying that just because...
Who can say where the road goes, where the day flows, only time.
Let me just say this is a Bernie rally. Try going to like the zoo.
Oh, that's a very clever suggestion.
Or the depths of hell itself. Have a good day.
Sassy.
A question for all of you. I guess what scholastic credibility do any of you have, just coming from a place of having, been in college for a really long time and taking a bunch of environmental studies courses and knowing that, climate change is real, and a big part of climate change is, the United States is, gluttonous, consumer-driven, abusive, exploitative lives. And I mean, I've heard these things from.
And this is what you're being taught. This is called brainwashing, by the way. But anyway, you're being brainwashed. My
sorry, who's disprove global warming? I just want to know. I just want to know who's disproved global warming. Because not the 98% of climate scientists I've heard talk about.
Okay, hang on. Let me answer. Can I answer that one? Okay, you're in college, so I'd say logic will work beautifully with you. If we say that 98%, no, please, sweetie, because actually, this point I really love doing. So
no, I can't take anything you said seriously because you said that washing machines were more liberating than the birth control pill. You don't know anything. You are the least credible human being I've ever encountered.
Have you been to Africa?
I know that this is research.
I'm allowed an opinion.
I just can't help it. I'm sorry, but you're a goddamn idiot.
A goddamn idiot.
You are, and you're lying through your teeth.
Is this what you always say?
And how does it feel?
What am I lying about?
Feels good to tell the truth.
What am I lying about?
I've been to Africa.
What am I lying
You've
about?
been to Africa?
I haven't been to Africa, but that doesn't mean that I don't know
but
that
No,
the infant mortality
she
rate in neighborhoods in Philadelphia are just as bad as place in Africa, all right?
Say again?
The infant mortality rate in black and brown communities, like in North Philadelphia, is just as high as in many places.
Okay, that is factually inaccurate. But can I just do one point? Because I think it's worthwhile. Even though I've just been personally insulted, which I think is an extraordinary thing for intelligent people to do, if she was talking about academic background. That's not what an open-minded person does. But let's just look at what she said, because I think it's really worthwhile. So she said that 98% of scientists agree that global warming is a major problem, basically. It's what she said, 98% of scientists. Everyone in this room is going to college, so you're going to like the logic of this. If you say 98% of something, there must be 100%. So somewhere there must be a list. There must be a list of all the scientists that exist. My first challenge to this lady is to give me the list of every scientist that exists in America, in the world. Because if they do, that's how you can use the word 98%. If there isn't a definitive list, there is no such thing as 98%. Number one, logic. Number two, science does not proceed by consensus. Science is not democratic. At one time in history, it was the consensus that the Earth was flat. Everyone believed in that. Everyone agreed on that. One man said that that was not true. One person is true. The idea, anyone who says to you, the majority agree with it, so it's true, is not a scientist. I don't know what they are, but they're not a scientist. The laws of gravity do not get agreed by a consensus, by a vote, via democracy. Science is not democratic. Science is about truth. One person can be correct. The person who quotes 98% of science is somebody who already knows they're losing.
Gotcha, bitch!
So they are using illogic. 98% of all scientists, unless you have an index of all scientists. Richard Lindzen, chair of atmospheric sciences at MIT, says we need to not worry about this. He was on the IPC. He resigned because of the fact that it was so unscientific. The list of scientists that I think is running to about 1,000 that I've seen a list of, who dissent with the other opinion. It grows all the time, but it doesn't really matter how big the list is. It doesn't matter. Because the truth is the truth, and it's not done by majority. We can't all vote in this room about the laws of physics and make it right. And I would like the lady who insulted me earlier to at least acknowledge my logic, at least acknowledge that logic, because she is obviously a highly educated person, although I question that. Anyone who needs to insult, anyone who needs to use ad hominem attacks against the speaker is someone who is obviously really shaky on their facts. Hit me with facts, girl. But I mean, when you have to go down to the personal attacks, you're obviously really losing it. You're going to give me the list then of the 100%. So you have a list of every scientist that ever lived.
Not a list. The book isn't really that big. But I do have some notes about the IPCC, which is the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change.
Intergovernmental, not interscientific. It's a governmental panel. It's not scientific.
Yes. Yes, it is. And it was evaluated research from over 130 countries.
Great.
Some of them were actually part of the European Union. And, you know, the European Union uses...
What about the European Union?
I'm just saying they use a lot of really great, I don't know...
Really great what?
Sustainable energy practices.
Oh my God, okay.
Are you sure about that?
We have to stop you on that. In Spain, do you know what the unemployment rate in Spain is, where they have this wonderful, which was the poster child for renewable energy, Spain? They have over 20% unemployment.
And how many of them have health care and get to eat food all the time because their government takes care of them? Just curious.
Yeah.
Enlighten me.
Well,
I can tell you one.
Well,
I can tell you one.
Well,
You're about the only person in the world who thinks that the European experiment is a success. They have no money. They're being bailed out by everyone. The whole thing is falling to pieces. And look at her. My God, you need to read a newspaper. You have got to be informing yourself. The European Union are about to crumble. The euro is about to crumble. Are you aware of that?
And the US dollar's doing so good right now?
It's doing a lot better. It's doing an awful lot better. Europe is falling to pieces. You do know that now, do you? Don't you? You know that they're rioting in Greece. In Greece, people retire at 50, and they can't continue to pay them. Greece has no money. You do know that. You do know that. You know that in France, there is an incredible problem. They're spending more money than they have. You do know this. Ireland, where I'm from, we are in such bad shape, we have had to give over the sovereignty of our country to the IMF. The IMF had to come in to run Ireland. Do not sit here and try and explain to people here that Europe is a success. You are one girl in a million who's going to believe that. The whole world is acknowledging that the European experiment was a mistake.
Well, then what experiment worked?
The American experiment! The American experiment! Let me make a point on that. God bless America. This is the only country. Everyone's trying to come here. I don't think Cubans are stupid, by the way. Cubans swim with sharks to get to this country.
and they're drilling for oil.
Swim with sharks.
I mean,
that's hilarious.
This is amazing.
Europe, oh my God.
The United States of America.
I want to quote
people die. They hide in trucks and vans. They give their life. They give their children to come here. And you think we're foul?
Let's go to Boca Raton, Florida. She's on the other side. Joe in Boca Raton, welcome. You say the Arizona law is wrong. Is that correct?
Yes, I think it's absolutely racist that they're telling the illegal aliens that they can't come into Arizona. They can do what they want to. I mean, we're America. We have to have open arms.
Wait. You're saying too many things at once. They're saying what?
That we need to have...
You're saying, wait, ma'am. Are you aware of the fact that a country has borders? Are you aware of that?
I'm saying that we need to get rid of our borders so we can welcome all forms and walks of life.
Of course, you're pulling my leg.
I'm serious. Just look at how your ancestors got here.
Well, they didn't come here illegally. Maybe yours did. How did yours get here? Did they come here illegally?
I don't know, but they got over here somehow, and now.
Well, apparently they pulled from the lowest level of the gene pool from where you came from. That you don't even know how a nation is defined. How many people do you think this country could sustain with open borders? Is there a limit, an upper limit in your mind?
I think we could sustain so many people because there's capitalism.
I said how many? How many people are in America today? How many millions?
600 million.
Oh, my God. Oh, boy, we're in trouble, aren't we? So you just guessed at that, I could see, because that's not the correct number. Okay, we'll give you another chance. How many people do you think the United States of America could sustain if we had no borders and anybody could just enter the country? How many people?
We need to put limits on people's income because people are making way too much money, and they need to...
So, in other words, it's not the number of people here, it's the amount of money people are making.
Yes, it's the greed in America. We need to spread
I
that
see.
out.
How much money do you make a year, Joe?
Nothing. Right now I'm on a welfare check, but that doesn't matter anymore.
Ah, you're on a welfare check. That's why you're so benevolent with other people's money. So you're telling men like me who work for a living, who pay your welfare check, that I should be limited in how much I make so you can make more money doing nothing?
Well, I think that you don't pay my welfare check. I think Obama pays my welfare check. And
Wait, what do you mean? Obama pays it out of his pocket? Where does Obama get the money from, Joe?
I don't know his stash. I don't know where he gets it. But the main thing is...
What do you mean you don't know where he gets it from? It's called the public treasury. Where does the money come from into the public treasury, Joe?
Illegal aliens who work for a living and then they pass the money to the government.
Joe, you're a very sick person. I really pity you, Joe. And you never should have been able to get on the show because a man wants to find hell as a place where there is no reason. And you just dragged me into hell, Joe.
officer that was tied through here.
Back up.
Sorry. Hey, dude, stay right here.
Yeah. Don't like recording?
Hey, don't touch me, please.
All right, don't touch.
Let's go back.
Hey.
I don't care. You guys are just showing how stupid you are. Just makes our side stronger.
No, he threw the flag at someone. Antifa took his flag. You need that flag. No, absolutely not. It's not illegal to fucking have a flag. Or burn it.
It's also illegal to throw stuff at people, so you need to go arrest that man for throwing shit.
Yeah, I want that man arrested.
This is some one-sided bullshit. Yeah. You're gonna throw something, you're gonna take him into custody. That's some bullshit. Richardson, come on, I see you, nigga.
Look, this is where they're gonna want to start fights, alright? Don't fucking start fights.
That's some stupid ass bullshit. Some double-sided bullshit.
What? They like to hide behind cops, but you know that already. Don't start a fight.
How you gonna pretend like you care about your community? I see who you protecting, the white people over there. Fuck everybody. Fuck every single one of you. Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. Every single one of you. Y'all some one-sided bullshit. Every single one of you some one-sided bullshit.
I don't have anything big enough.
Hey, don't touch.
Don't touch. I'm not touching.
Don't touch.
I'm not touching.
We'll get that camera out of her face.
I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you. Not touching you. Over here. I'm not touching you. Not touching you. Not touching you. Back up. You're trying to get people killed. Back up.
Hey, dude, stay right here.
Yeah.
Don't like recording?
Let's get a skirmish line. Let's get a skirmish line.
Hey, don't touch me, please.
All right, don't touch. Yeah, let's go back. Let's go back. Hey,
Whoa!
Whoa! Get her!
Hey, get off of her!
Get out. Jordan's done. Fuck Antifa! Shut up, girl! Antifa squad, that's what you deserve! Oh, associate officer! Wow, take her down! Equality at its finest.
Back up. You guys back up a little bit, please. You guys back up.
I got that on video, man. You want my contact info?
Yeah, thank you. I gotta fill out the insurance information now.
That's where I got my information from.
We don't want to fucking hear from you. Get the fuck away from us. We don't want to fucking hear from you. We got nothing to fucking say to you. Get the fuck away from our march. We don't want anything to do with you. You're a fucking fash. We don't fucking need you here.
No.
Get the fuck away from our march.
You gonna make me?
We got no fucking use for you.
Make me.
Get the fuck away.
Was that your word?
You don't want me to make you. Trust me.
Oh, make me. Make me. Make me. Dude, fucking make me. I fucking goddamn dare you to make me move. Come on. What are you gonna do? What the fuck are you gonna do? You guys talk so much shit about me online. You ain't done shit yet. Do something.
Turn that fucking camera off. That camera.
No. He's good. But it's funny how you're gonna block his
hiding
camera.
behind fucking doxing.
It's funny.
The only reason you're talking all that shit is because that camera's over there.
No.
If that camera wasn't there, I'd be knocking your ass the fuck out.
Don't worry about the camera. It seems like you can't see shit right now. Welcome to America, bitch.
We don't need you here, motherfucker.
Okay.
We don't fucking need you here.
Okay.
We don't have any fucking use for you. Get the fuck away from our march.
Okay, so
shut the fuck
I don't
up.
mind
Nobody wants to hear a fucking word you have to say. Shut the fuck up.
No.
Shut the fuck up.
No.
Nobody fucking wants you here.
Nobody cares.
Nobody fucking wants you here.
I don't care. I don't fucking care.
I don't give a fuck what you care about.
Good. 'Cause I don't care what you care about. A little pissy ass march.
Shut the fuck up.
Beach towel
Shut
sign.
the fuck up. Shut the fuck up.
No.
Shut the fuck up.
Make me.
Shut the fuck up.
Make me.
Fuck you.
Make me.
Fuck off.
No. No, I'm not. And it sucks to be you. Because you're in America. If you don't like it, take your bags and leave the country. If you don't like it. You hate it so fucking much. That's the best you got. No. You see that right there? That's mine. Thanks, bro. Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. And you see this GoPro? It's been running the entire time. So guess who's going to jail?
Best you got.
Alright! Knock it off! You okay, Jimmy? No, she swung first. I got on video.
This GoPro, it's been running the entire time. So guess it's going to jail.
Yep.
Call the cops.
Get in the fucking car. Camera.
Going to jail.
Yeah.
Give me a camera, come on. Get it. You're going to jail. You're going to jail. You're going to jail.
All right.
Call the cops.
Get in the fucking car. Camera.
Going to jail.
Don't come around.
Give me a camera, come on. Get it. You're going to jail. You're going to jail. You're going to jail.
Are you working with them?
Yo! Yo! Yo!
Punch him. Got on video. He is so
This guy right here in the blonde just punched me in the face.
Took him down to the ground.
Don't believe this person.
We got it on camera, so.
My camera has been running. You want to honestly, you want to sit there and lie to the police officer? My camera has been running the entire time.
He just attacked her.
Who's involved?
Me and this individual right here.
Which individual?
Right here, this Sjws shirt.
Female?
Yeah.
Okay. Everybody.
Donald Trump, stop the hate!
Don't you dare cut Medicaid!
Donald Trump, stop the hate!
Don't you dare cut Medicaid!
When immigrants are under attack, what do we do?
Stand up like that!
When our seniors are under attack, what do we do?
Stand up like that!
When our families are under attack, what do we do?
Stand up like that!
All right, we got a couple more chants until I get the signal from the... Okay, we're good.
He sure didn't have fucking blonde hair. Fuck Donald Trump! Fuck your hate! Fuck your hate! Fuck your racism! Fuck Donald Trump!
You're projecting. I think you're the one with the hate. Obviously, you're a little emotional about it.
Oh God, do not even get me started. Oh.
You'll get some souvenirs,
We
bro.
won't
You guys are
stand
all-
for
you guys are the
hatred.
ones
We
that-
won't stand for the racism any longer.
You're just projecting your anger, and you're. I mean, this is not. normal behavior. You guys are really trying to rebel against something.
Yes, you're right. We are trying to rebel.
Anti-white. No, that's what it is about. You're angry at white men because you have daddy issues. Clearly.
It's not about white. Are
You're
you
not about-
fucking kidding me right now? Are you kidding me?
You're yelling.
My
and
dad
getting
is a
emotional.
great person.
You're getting emotional.
Okay, and what? Okay, but what have you experienced in life from being a white male? You can't see it from the other side because you are a white male.
I'm being yelled at by people all around. That's what I'm experiencing. You're not experiencing anything.
You just assumed. You just assumed I have daddy issues.
See, you're escalating by calling me nigga and swearing and getting emotional. So you're just projecting your hate and telling us that we're hating you. You guys are the ones that hate people.
Hey, how you doing today? Sorry. First off, so I actually really appreciate you coming, because a big thing I tell people is that if we don't listen to each other, we're gonna go nowhere. So I appreciate you coming, so thank you. Yeah, of course. Something that caught me as interesting was when you talked about statistics with rape. I just want to share a story. I have a lot. I'm actually LGBTQ. So I was actually expecting this to be much more offensive, and I was like, that was it. So sorry to disappoint you. Yeah. My question about your statistics on rape culture, don't you think that maybe a lot of women who experience this don't want to come forward? If you don't mind me giving an example, you're Jewish, so you know Long Island, New York. There was a case in Long Island, New York, where there was a pediatrician who, no, seriously, there's a,
no, I'm waiting to hear the case. Not everyone in Long Island is Jewish. Don't worry, I don't think you're an anti-Semite. Thank you. But more importantly, in this town, it came forward that there was a few people that he molested, and then more people came forward, and it came out being dozens and dozens, and there was this whole escapade where people didn't even say anything until other people came forward. Yes. So don't you think that maybe people are scared to come forward, and that it's possible that those statistics could be not entirely as accurate? Okay, so it's possible the statistics are somewhat low, but the idea that they are 244 low out of 250 is wrong, right? So there's a vast difference between 0.6% rape rate and 25% rape rate. So yes, if you're asking, are there women, are there men who are raped, who are intimidated about coming forward, of course that's true. And of course we need to make it easier for people to come forward and report rape. I think, by the way, that it is also very important that in cases of rape that we fulfill an evidentiary standard, because when I'm talking about you have to castrate or kill people, they better damn well be guilty, right? So I want to make sure that the people who are convicted are certainly guilty. But that said, I think that one of the grave tragedies is that there's so many people who are raped who don't come forward, and then they talk later about the rapes that they've experienced. The world would be a lot better place if we could encourage those people to come forward. If they did come forward, I want rapists in jail. I don't want them out on the streets. So when people say rape culture, my problem is that it's just too vague. I don't know what that means. Who in the United States is pro-rape? I need to hear who out there really. Well, I think that other than Bill Clinton.
Well, good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. Donald Trump's feud with the media got even weirder and more intense over the weekend after the president tweeted a video of his staged brawl with wrestling mogul Vince McMahon with his CNN logo superimposed over McMahon's face. It was a little confusing since CNN and pro wrestling could not be more different. One is an entertainment venture that promotes over-the-top fictional narratives and rigs its fights. The other is the WWE. Pow!
Tell me why you think that it was not taken out of context when she calls for a jihad against the White House.
Well, I mean, it clearly wasn't taken out of context. Everybody I know who posted this story posted the entire video as well as a large portion of the transcript from what she said. I don't think anybody is claiming that she openly called for violence against President Trump, but jihad means more than just internal struggle or quote-unquote struggle for good. I mean, we all know that there are terrorists all over the world who invoke the word jihad as justification for what they do. And Linda Sarsour knows that too. I mean, she knows how to make a headline. She is a radical anti-Semite who has backed terrorists in the past. She's a person who has said that Ayaan Hirsi Ali should have her
a woman who's not here to defend herself. You just don't like a vocal American Muslim woman proudly standing for justice. Don't smear a woman who's not here to defend herself. Shame on you.
Okay, I'll talk about CARE instead. CARE is an organization that was an unindicted co-conspirator in the Holy Land Foundation.
Right, shift the topic. Exactly. Never indicted. Don't try to drown out the conversation. Let's talk about what jihad means. Jihad means striving for truth.
Let me ask you,
that's
Hassan,
exactly what she's doing.
If you want to talk about context, let's talk about the full context.
Yes, go ahead and ask me.
Okay, this is what I want to ask
the fact that she began this speech by praising a guy who has in the past talked about how jihad includes violent jihad. She started her speech with that. So let's not pretend that you can just, you're the one taking this one line out of context and then suggesting that it only refers to
I encourage everybody just to listen to the speech for herself.
So in your opinion, is socialism a good thing or a bad thing?
I mean, I think people kind of throw that word around to try to scare you. But if helping people is socialism, then I'm for it.
It could really benefit our country in the future.
I think it's a good idea.
Socialism as a concept, as a philosophy is good. I think that it's got a bad rep.
Trying to spread the wealth is definitely a good thing in America, and it's definitely a thing that's needed.
There's a lot of things with social welfare that I think would be good to have.
Do you have a positive reaction to socialism or a negative one?
I'd say a more positive one. I'm definitely more open to it.
We should have a standard of living for all people. Okay. Just by default, that should just be available.
If we did it democratically, then we could really incorporate socialism.
Like, it definitely seems like a more feasible option, and it could help more people. Like, just as a broad term, it could help more people.
How would you define socialism?
I mean, honestly, that definition gets thrown around a lot. I'm not exactly sure.
How would you view what socialism is, though? Economically, what is socialism?
Economically, So, I'm gonna think about that for a second.
I guess just specifically just, you know, getting rid of that wealth gap in the United States.
How would I describe it as little words possible?
How would you define socialism?
I mean, it's definitely more of an open form of government, and it feels like a lot more accessible to a lot more people. And that's kind of how I see it, like being more accessible and more kind of like equal ground. Yeah.
What does that mean necessarily, though?
To be quite honest, I don't know.
Hello, Mr. D'Souza. I'm a op-ed writer for the school paper, and full disclosure, I wrote an article saying that I think you're a hack. Now, I came with an open mind, and I was disappointed to find that much like much of the current president's comments, yours are based on sort of shallow logic, lack of expertise, no real facts, and economic ignorance. But, and some conservatives have said that too, but I have a question about the broader conservative philosophy, and this gets back to what you said about trade. Now, you said that, we gotta, get trade back in order. But with the trend in technology nowadays, the real threat is not trade and loss of jobs overseas, but automation, artificial intelligence, the replacement of many of the jobs that serve as a starting level for economic advancement. What role does conservatism have in a world in which machines and automation can take the place of much of human labor and activity that generates income and value for everyday people?
All right, well, man, let me say this. If it is the case that in what I said tonight, and I put some fairly incendiary material on the table, if I had said something that was even arguably wrong, factually wrong, about the Democratic Party or about fascism or about Trump, it would be very easy for someone to point it out. So normally, if you're going to call someone a hack, you should kind of try to establish your own bona fides. It's okay. It's okay. Look, a certain amount of moral indignation is the staple of being a late teen. And so I think we should be indulgent. Now, technology. Look, here's the point. we have seen in the United States the ordinary working guy, I don't just mean the white guy, the black guy, the Hispanic guy, the working class in this country has been hit by 3 powerful winds blowing in the same direction. And those winds are named globalization, immigration, and technology. Now, what does the Democratic Party plan to do about any of these? And the answer is nothing. Nothing. Obama did nothing. Hillary proposed to do nothing. In fact, what the Democratic Party wants to do is to increase the problem of illegal immigration, motivated solely by getting Democratic voters, with complete indifference to the impact on the worker.
All right, I love that. There was a lot to respond to there, so let me try to take it one at a time. So first off, I love the idea that the government made the banks do the subprime mortgages, and golly gee, the government twisted the banks' arm, and they made billions upon billions of dollars. Oh man, oh don't make me make another billion. Don't make me make another billion. No, they did those, if they thought they were going to lose money off of it, they would have a fiduciary responsibility not to do it. I agree. Okay, they were not forced to make billions of dollars. They were not forced to then have us bail them out. Right. They did all of that because there's legalized bribery in America.
Right, because the government was giving them money, correct.
So now let me address that. You say, well, what's the difference between your speech and their speech? Mine is actually speech, and theirs is money. So there's a giant difference.
You spend money on your speech.
So first off, so they say, no, Supreme Court says, no, money is speech now. No, money is property. It's not speech. And so if money was speech, well, then if you go to a hooker and you say, oh, no, officer, I was just talking to her. Okay, money is not speech. So, for example, to give you a sense of it, to compare me saying I like Bernie Sanders and you saying whoever you like is the equivalent of this is obviously nonsensical. I believe it's obvious. So in a recent five-year period, the top 200 corporate givers, they both in donations and in lobbying spent $5.8 billion, okay? So that is not the same thing as me saying, hey, I like what Bernie's saying about college and Medicare. And when they did, why do you think they did? It was not because, hey, they genuinely like Bernie or Trump or Hillary. Because in return for that $5.8 billion, they got $4.4 trillion in government subsidies. So, which leads to, I actually think, the biggest point here, the difference between big government and small government. So, a lot of times conservatives say, oh, you guys like big government. That's not true. So let me explain. If I ask you, hey, you got a plumbing job, what would you like, big pipes or small pipes? I don't know. What's the job we have? It depends. It's the same thing with the government. Okay, what size government would you like? I don't know. What's the job we have? So to say big government or small government doesn't make any sense. So, for example, do I want a big government that invades Iraq? Hell no, I don't. No way. And Ben, you were vociferously for the Iraq war, so in that sense, you loved big government. Couldn't get enough of it. And I could go on and on and on. Republicans say, no, we don't like big government, but we'd like to be inside your uterus. So just admit it. It's no problem. Just say it. Say I love big government. It's okay. So you're talking about when you like when you're rich and you want tax cuts. Oh no, I don't want big government. I want small government. But when it's convenient for you and you'd like oil subsidies and you'd like wars and you'd like to meddle in people's private lives, then you love big government.
Okay, I need to respond to some of that.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so first of all, I'd like to point out that Cenk's big government, small government dichotomy was proposed by you, not by me. I talk about the proper scope of the government's involvement in particular areas the same way that you do, and we may disagree on all of that. My point is that overall, if you're talking about the level of government spending, it needs to go down, and you believe that it really needs to go up. Okay, so it's disingenuous.
It depends. It's not on war, does it?
No, but overall.
Not on the war on drugs. Not on so many of those wasteful programs. It depends. But let me.
Overall, you want the federal budget increased. Overall, I would like the federal budget decreased. To pretend that this is not true is to lie. Okay, and when you suggest that there is no difference between, we just have different visions of what the government should cover, these things cost different things. Okay, the war in Iraq was very expensive. You know what's more expensive? Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. All of these are vastly more expensive than the war in Iraq and Afghanistan. Now, as far as this, again, going back to this idea that, again, I don't like this big government dichotomy any more than you do, in the sense that you say, well, it's big government for the government to get inside people's wombs. And I say that it is the government's job to preserve life, liberty, and property, and one of those things is life. To protect you from someone else taking it, okay? To protect you from someone else taking it. Now, when it comes to the idea that all money in politics is bad, again, I ask you, final question, final point on, we're going through 10 points at a time here, but final point here. When you say money in politics is bad, again, I ask you, Buddy Roemer gave you $4 million to start TYT. What did he expect in return? Should he not have given you money? Was the money not speech? It was just money, after all. It's just like a hooker, I assume. So are you the prostitute? How did this work? When you take money from Al Jazeera, does that make you a hooker for the Qataris? How does that work?
That was an awesome conflation. Okay, we were talking about money in politics and how money is not speech when you give it as a campaign donation, and you turn it around to a business investment. In a business investment, it has nothing to do with speech. Money is money. They gave us an investment, because they believed in our business. That has nothing to do with politics.
That's great. And you think the government is in the business of regulating business. So if the government is in the business of regulating business, what would be the problem with the government telling Buddy Roemer he is not allowed to invest in your business?
No, those are two different issues. No problem. No, one thing is to say, hey, let's set reasonable limitations on what can happen around elections, which is, again, what most developed Western countries do. So, and they have different versions of that rule. There's ads you can run, you can't run ads within a certain period of time. You have public financing versus private financing. Those are rules around an election. That is a completely different issue than the government saying randomly you can and you can't invest in businesses.
Why?
So you're conflating those two issues that have nothing to do with one another.
Why?
So let's just
what does why mean?
Because it's
you believe in education, so why don't you believe in healthcare?
Because it's a free country, and I get to spend my money wherever I damn well please.
All right. So as we're coming to the close here, we're going to do one more.
I gotta ask him. All
right, very quick.
So you damn well please. Okay, so when the Koch brothers or Bloomberg or Soros puts in hundreds of millions of dollars into elections, you think, well, I just doing them because they're good guys and they damn well please buying all those politicians. Or you think, no, the politicians would never be affected by hundreds of millions of dollars in legalized bribes.
Okay.
And you can't just spend your money anywhere you want. Of course there are rules. You can't bribe people.
Right.
There's many things you can't do with your money. And one of those should be bribing politicians, but we made it legal. So I'm curious what your opinion on that is. Do you think that they're just golly shucks, they just mean well?
Cenk, you're a lawyer, so you know that bribery requires two parties to the bribe. If I give money to a politician, there must be something in return. If there is no quid pro quo, there is no bribery.
You think there's nothing in return?
Well, you
think the politicians don't do those favors?
I think very often there is something in return, but I want you to point me to the things that are in return, not just say that all spending on politics ought to be forbidden except for the Young Turks.
No, that is of course not what we say. If you want to get money out of politics and then you said the Young Turks cannot donate money to politicians, I'd say, of course, that's the whole point of getting money out of politics.
Wait, so
this idea that
Come on.
It's so disingenuous. Even if you're a Republican and you're a conservative, you think there isn't crony capitalism? You think that $4.4 trillion that went in subsidies isn't because they got campaign donations? You know it's because they got campaign donations.
Cenk, okay, final question.
This is going to be the last word on this.
Final thing here on this, okay? Final question on this. So, Young Turks is super successful. We have 80 million uniques. It's wonderful. Do you think Bernie Sanders would care more if you gave him $10,000 or if you dedicated your entire network to kissing his ass for an election cycle?
Well, if you look at the demographics of the people that are killed by police, disproportionately a number of them are black and brown people. Black people are 3 times more likely to be killed by police than white people. And in a lot of cases, 69% of black people that are shot and killed by police are actually unarmed, or they didn't pose a violent threat. So in my piece, I show that police violence disproportionately affects the black and brown communities, more so than other communities. So
okay, well, but they're also much higher. I mean, this is again a complex matter, and there are much higher crime rates in those communities for, you know, who knows why, but there are, and so that may be a factor in this. But here are some numbers that I think show just how complicated this is. So there was a study a couple of years ago of the about 2,700 police shootings between 2013 and 2015, and I'm quoting now, found that the odds of a black suspect being killed by a black officer were consistently greater than the odds of a black suspect being killed by a white officer. It doesn't prove anything necessarily, but it does maybe show that racism isn't as simple in this context as you're making it sound. If a black suspect's more likely to be shot by a black cop, then what does that tell us about racism?
well, I think what it tells us is we have to look at the system and not the individual police officers that are killing these people. Systematically, the way police officers are trained, they're taught to go for violence first. In a lot of states, they don't tell police officers to resort to other means to subdue a subject other than shooting and killing them. So
okay, but hold on, but right, there are two different things. You know, whether non-lethal force ought to be used first is a valid question, but I want to get to the question of race. So, and I'm quoting, white officers statistically less likely than black officers to kill black suspects. So if all cops are being taught to be racist, why are black cops more likely to shoot black suspects? It doesn't really make much sense, does it?
No, you're looking at it individually. When it needs to be looked at as a systemic.
Looking at the numbers.
No, it's supposed to be. You have to look at it in a systemic way, where you look at the system that allows these police officers to commit these acts of violence, and then they don't get held accountable for it. We've seen time and again police officers getting off on killing another person. Geronimo Yanez, who was shot and killed, Philando Castillo, he was acquitted of all charges.
I mean, again, I don't want to be mean, but you're maybe dodging the point a little bit. I think some of the issues that you're raising are valid issues. I don't want anybody to commit brutality against anybody else, and I mean it. But to charge that racism is at the core of this without any evidence, because you actually don't have any evidence at all, and there's some countervailing evidence, makes people more fearful, makes them hate each other, makes our society way less happy and less trusting. And so it's a big deal to charge something like that. And don't you think you should pull back until you can prove it? I guess that's my point.
Well, I do think I do prove it in my piece, because if you look at the statistics and you look at the data, police violence disproportionately affects black and brown bodies, and it always has. Throughout history.
Why are black cops more likely to shoot black suspects than white cops are? How does that fit into your neat little racism package? I don't get that. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, as police officers, they're part of the police system in this country, that no matter what race you are, you still are taught the same tactics.
But why are they more likely? I mean, it doesn't, look, again, I just want you to open your mind a little bit. This isn't college. And just like look at the facts and then draw your conclusions from those. And sometimes, you know, you reach a point where you're like, I'm not exactly sure what's going on, but it's not as simple as my professors told me it was. That's all I'm hoping that you'll conclude.
Okay, well, I think you're missing a point a little bit about what I was trying to get at in my article, and about the seriousness of police violence and why we need to address it in a meaningful way.
Okay, well, I'm with you in some ways on that. The race stuff is wrong.
I think they do. So, you know, as far as I'm concerned, that was a horrible, horrible day. Wait a minute, I'm not finished. I'm not finished, fake news. That was a horrible day.
I would like to, for a moment, ask you some questions about the economics of job getting in terms of the blacks versus the whites. The statistics I was able to pull together indicate that at the present time, white males make $17,427 on an average basis for the year. Black males make $12,738. White females make $10,244, and black females make $9,476. It is clear from these figures, as indeed I think it's clear to most of us from what we see, that there is a discrimination against blacks and against women in our present system. since not all blacks will be superior, how would you try to even that out so that there would be some equality of job opportunities?
Yeah, I'm sorry you missed the earlier part of the program when I pointed out that where you find people not represented evenly, that does not show the institutional effect, because almost nowhere in human affairs do you find people evenly represented.
Well,
if you compare comparable people with respect to age, with respect to education, etc., you get a totally different picture, both with respect to blacks and women. Now, the figures that I saw, for example, show more recently that if you take black families where the husband and wife are both college educated and compare them to a white family where the husband and wife are both college educated, the black family is now earning $2,000 a year more. The problem is that very few blacks fall in that category. That when you compare category for category, then we're talking about getting people a decent education. I'm saying that you cannot say that numbers collected at the employer's place of business reflect simply the employer's policies. Those numbers reflect underlying conditions in the whole society, just as numbers collected at a hospital do not show you that the people are sick because they're in the hospital.
No, I would agree with that, but you would also have to agree that, generally speaking, women are paid less, for example, for the same jobs as men.
No, I would not. I would not agree with that. If you're talking about women with the same number of years of experience, with the same continuous service, etc., then when I look at that, I don't find that disparity. I find, for example, in many cases, the women are making more, depending on how you break the data down. The difference with women is between married women and everybody else. That's the real difference.
Well, even as to single women, the Census Bureau statistics, the most recent ones I could find, 1978, say that single men are earning $11,100 and single women are earning $9,300.
Yes, I love the word single that is used. When I did my study, I didn't use single, I used never married. You see, a woman who is single at age 40, having spent 10 or 20 years raising children, is really not quite the same as a man of age 40 who's been working continuously for 20 years.
And the differential she cited is not that great, so it could easily be accounted for by the point
Yes,
you
because
raised.
when I break them down the other way, I did this for the academic world, and there I found the women who are never married, which is the term the way I take it. There they were earning more than the men. And similarly, when the government did data some years ago on women who had been working continuously since high school into their 30s, there you found that they were making slightly more than men of the same description. So the difference is between married women and everybody else. And married men get an extra bonus because their wives take care of many things that enable them to put more time into their careers.
I'm sure you're aware of the fact that there are approximately 15% of all homes in which there is only one wage earner. So that when you talk about women being able to take care of things for their married mate wage earner, the fact is that in the overwhelming majority of American homes, the women also work. And therefore, I don't think your explanation that women have other responsibilities and that that's why they are...
Work can mean part-time work or full-time work. Women do not work full-time to the same extent that men. Part-time workers make less than full-time workers.
No, because you're not worried that they'll just check out the sexual references and not care about the music? Is that something that worries you?
No. Not at all. I've got 3 #1 records and I've sold almost 4 million albums worldwide.
So what's the biggest thrill of your career so far?
The gay community.
Oh, wow. Why? Can you...
'Cause I love them so much. 'Cause they don't ask me questions like that. 'Cause they love sexual, strong women who speak their mind. You see, if I was a guy and I was sitting here with a cigarette in my hand, grabbing my crotch and talking about how I make music because I love fast cars and fucking girls, you'd call me a rock star. But when I do it in my music and in my videos, because I'm a female, because I make pop music, you are judgmental and you say that it is distracting. I'm just a rock star.
Are you also a feminist?
I'm not a feminist. I hail men. I love men. I celebrate American male culture and beer and bars and muscle cars. But that's not what you asked me. You asked me if my music was distracted by my sexuality, and it's not.
talk truthfully about it. So we will call it radical Islamic terrorism, we will target the ideology, and we will call them out for being evil, and we will work with our Muslim partners. This is the crucial part. We are not here to invade other people's countries and occupy them. The president thinks that's fundamentally un-American. We are here to help those nations that share our values and share our interests and help them fight the fight, whether it's the Iraqis and Kurds in Iraq, whether it's the Egyptians in the Sinai, or whether it's our European allies that now have to deal with this very severe threat to their own countries.
Okay, again, I don't understand how calling it by its name helps stop the attacks in Paris or in Belgium.
So if you God forbid, caught cancer, and the hospital was forbidden from calling it cancer and said you have the flu, go home and hydrate and take some aspirins, would you actually have the right treatment?
No, but there's still no cure for cancer.
Sorry, but have you not heard of chemo?
I have heard of chemo, and cancer can still kill you. So it doesn't matter what you call it.
But cancer can be, it doesn't matter what you call it, really. So if I call it the flu and say go home and take some aspirin, what's going to happen to you,
Gorka,
Stephanie?
there must be a better response to that, right? I asked you a very straightward question. This has morphed into something else.
I gave you a very simple answer. If you misdiagnose anything, whether it's a serious disease or an international geopolitical threat, you will never solve it. For the last 8 years, we had an administration that say, oh, it's economics.
Let me just stop you for a second.
These people are disenfranchised. It's not about economics. It's not about being disenfranchised. It's about people who have an ideology that is evil and has to be destroyed.
Okay, so how are you ladies doing? Do you want to try to, do you want to seem smarter than that guy? I feel bad he didn't. What are you doing out here today?
I'm here in support of the idea that brown is powerful, especially in today's political climate.
Was it Martin Luther King that said, I hope people don't get judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character? Was that Martin Luther King?
I don't know.
It was.
Okay.
Well, don't you think that we're kind of going the opposite direction now?
We're not trying to say that brown is better than everyone else, but it's just when the political climate right now is trying to tear down everyone of color, which is very clear through what is happening in Charlottesville, in Texas right now. We can't just look at that.
All right, well, let's stop right there. What happened in Charlottesville?
What happened in Charlottesville? When the literal Nazis came and were
literal Nazis? They're not literal Nazis. They're LARPing. They're not actual Nazis. The Nazis, the fascist Nazis.
They're Nazis.
Really? What countries are the Nazis occupying?
Here. Nazis never stopped being a thing.
No. Look, if I go out and I put a Roman gladiator suit on, I'm not a Roman gladiator.
Okay, if you're carrying Nazi flags and saying those things, if you're a fucking no. They were Nazis, they're supporting Nazi values, and they're there to make people...
What are Nazi values?
Oh my God. What are Nazi values?
Well, yeah, I'm asking. I know them, do you?
Oh, do you know them?
Yeah, the Nazis was a socialist party. Do you know that?
Trying to logic with these people is useless.
Yeah, because they have none.
You're welcome to...
With us? You have
Excuse me. I have made multiple points, and you haven't responded to any of them.
I've answered you with actual...
Okay, what are Nazi values?
You're telling us that the people that are in your party are LARPing.
What party? Well, I'm not in any parties. What are you talking about?
You're wearing... Oh my God.
Well, I'm wearing a hat that says Make America Free Again. What's wrong with that? Actually, wouldn't that be supporting of what you're saying?
Not with what you're responding to me with.
I've said nothing but facts.
If you're saying that the people that are Nazis marching through Charlottesville are just LARPing, then that's belittling the fact that Nazis are actually walking through places and sparking fear in people's lives, which is not okay no matter what.
All right, so what are these Nazis' values?
Hate. Like, literally, they want everyone to be the same. They're against Mexicans, they're against Jews, they're against black people, they're against minorities.
Where are all these Nazis?
Everywhere.
Oh, let's do a quick pan. And let's see them. No, there's one. No. Okay, so there's none here, so where are they?
We're standing up to people that are standing up for hate in America because hate has no place here. Anyone is welcome in America, and what you're standing for right now is hate, and that's why...
What am I standing for?
Make America free again?
What is that hateful of?
Okay.
All right. Hey, you guys are really sweet. I'm sorry I had to do that to you, but maybe rethink your political beliefs. I could teach you guys a lot, honestly. Yeah, I could. If you'd like to learn, let's have a debate. That's why I'm telling you, they're lying. Everything that you're saying out here is just lies. It's mainstream media lies. I listen to every news. Literally, I absorb everything. It's my job. Yeah, I work for InfoWars. Yes, that's why I have this mic. I'm telling you, seriously, did I not make a good point to everything you said, though?
No, you didn't.
What are you talking about? Here, come on, let's have a conversation. No, I'm serious. What country are Nazi values actually getting political things accomplished? Where is this happening?
If they can walk freely through Charlottesville without any people like actually being able to stop
Oh, but
them,
wait,
then
they
can do that.
They got beat up. There was a huge fight.
No. On the side, black people were killed for protesting. Yeah.
Who?
Do you not get that white supremacists can protest and they don't get hurt, and then black people?
What about Black Lives Matter? They killed 5 cops in Dallas.
How many people do cops kill?
They kill a lot of people too.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I recognize that.
Okay, so then it's not the same.
You're right. You're 100% right. It's not the same.
America unsafe. Okay.
You don't have to cry. Yeah. I know it's hard. No, look, come here. Honestly, look, honestly. No, look, I want to tell you something. Honestly, all right, you got to take care of your friend. I'm sorry, honestly, I didn't want to do that. Look, folks, this is terrible, man. I just made that girl cry.
And black communities have had historically a system of domination upon them. So you're telling me they've been protecting, the police have been protecting laws and policies to uphold the state. The state has in turn dominated and controlled my people into oppression in all different levels. They control that.
Where were all the protests and the Black Lives Matter march when the white kid in Huntington Beach got shot yesterday?
What are you talking about?
Where
was the Black Lives Matter when a white kid got shot?
What I'm saying is, where were all the protests when the white kids getting shot are underreported in the media? Okay, more white people are killed by police than black people.
Yeah, that's true. That's a statistic.
That's a statistic.
What?
More white people are killed by cops than black people. That's a fact. That's a fact.
Do you not understand the problem?
What's going on?
I went undercover with Antifa and BAM. I'm Rick Wright from the Red Elephants. So if you guys are interested in an interview, then yeah.
Oh, sure. So let's talk to you right now.
No.
I
Okay.
understand your argument.
Just 1 minute though. Hold on.
Blacks are mass incarcerated. You want to talk proportion? 13% of our population, Black Americans, cause over 55% of the nation's crime. 13% of our population causes over 3/4.
Who gets to decide what is crime and what
isn't? You want to talk proportion?
What
That's
is
why they're mass
allowed?
incarcerated. You want to also know why they're mass incarcerated? 72% of black babies are born without fathers. And I didn't say it, Obama did. If you're fatherless home, you're 5 times more likely to turn to a life of crime. That's why they're mass incarcerated. It's not some conspiracy theory that the white man's holding you down, because that equates to the conspiracy theory of the alt-right that Jews are holding white people down. It's not a fact. It's not a fact. You want to argue proportion? We can argue proportion and statistics all day long. Because I just shut your conspiracy theory down.
It's not a conspiracy theory. It's historical narrative. All you have to do is walk in a classroom and understand this.
All you have to do. Anti-black rhetoric by Trump. You just said it's not about quotes.
I talked about
how it
euphemisms.
feels. We're not talking about feelings. No one gives
Can
a fuck
anyone
about
walk
your
around
feelings.
and memorize Trump quotes in their head?
Does
anyone do that? Oh, maybe because you're a Trump supporter.
No, he
Can you
just
memorize
a bunch of statistics? It's called studying. If you're going to make an argument, you should probably study before you try to make an argument. Who doesn't study for a test? You fail if you don't study for a test. It's pretty simple.
About who?
About life.
About
if you're going to
life.
go and make arguments, and then you should probably... You were just trying to say all sorts of arguments with him.
He brought anti-black.
You tried
that
to
it's
bring
systematic
up statistics
institutionally.
And proportions. He argued statistics and
He said that
proportions,
we
and you
make
couldn't make one point.
He said white people are more likely to die by police than black people. They are. Why is that? How much are we compared to the United States in terms of white people? What's the population? How many white people are there compared to black people?
It's not. That's already corrected for population. It is by police encounters. Yes.
No.
So in other words, if you have 100 black police encounters, 100 white police encounters, and one ends up in death, then the whites would have 3 more than blacks. That's the statistics. But I mean, I guess that means I win the argument.
This week, Donald Trump released his new tax plan, which was immediately shot down by his political opponents on the left. But what would those same people think if they were told that that tax plan was actually Bernie Sanders' plan? Today we're at George Washington University in Washington, D.C. to find out. What were your thoughts on Trump's tax plan when you saw it?
It's better for the upper class than anyone else. Pretty much a
horrible for the middle class, especially the lower class.
I mean, not ideal.
It's probably not the most efficient nor beneficial to the general populace.
Pretty negative. I feel the same.
Yeah.
So Bernie Sanders came out with his plan. Some people call it the compassionate alternative. So we're getting opinions on Bernie's plan. First, one of Bernie Sanders' plans is to enhance the child tax credit, which is tax money given back to families when they have children. What do you think of that? Positive or negative?
Positive.
All right.
Same. I was a social worker, so I understand how important tax credits like that are.
Parents that have children go through a lot, and I think giving back money to them really, in turn, helps the children.
I think that's great.
I think that's positive, definitely.
Positive, definitely.
Next up, eliminating the death tax. So when people die, it's a large tax on their estate that goes to their family. What do you think of that?
I think that's definitely something that we should be doing.
I do think that's a good idea because I'm from New Jersey and we used to have like a really heavy inheritance tax.
I'm in favor of that.
I would say more positive.
I think I agree with that.
Bernie is planning to lower the small business tax rate to a maximum of 25%. I think that's a positive or negative?
I definitely think that's a positive.
I feel very positively toward that.
My family has a small business, so I would definitely think that's a positive thing.
Taxing them less makes more sense.
Any way we can help small businesses work and like thrive, it's definitely something that's beneficial for the country.
I think that would be great.
Overall, main idea of the plan, what do you think? Bernie did a good job, bad job?
I think overall, good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, good job. Good job, Bernie.
I think it's a definitely good plan, a positive plan that can help everyone.
I think it's pretty good. Like, definitely better than whatever Trump is proposing. I would make that leap right there. So.
What if I told you this actually is Donald Trump's tax plan, not Bernie's?
You got me.
It is. It's Trump's plan.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
All of these are actually Trump's ideas. This is actually Trump's plan.
Wow.
Wow, that's interesting.
Wow. I am shocked that I do agree with Trump on certain things.
Okay.
Interesting.
I'm definitely happily surprised that it's like sounds a lot better than I would have expected it to.
I would have imagined he would be a little more stupid than that.
Okay. So, but it's not a stupid plan?
No, I don't think so. But I think if you said it was Trump, at least for many people, it would be more opposition to it just because it was Trump.
It could be a policy of giving me ice cream, but if it's Trump, I'd be like, what's in that ice cream?
I definitely think there's an initial bias. I mean, I've done it myself. Like, I'll just like hear the word Trump and I'm like, ugh. I definitely think that's something to like need to be like looked over.
People once they hear Trump or like Republican, they become like, oh, they suck no matter what.
I think people definitely hear the name and start to think things automatically. And also because a lot of people just go to the same news sources, the same media, it makes it tough to get other points of views.
Here, had a person try and vandalize our pro-life display. Just trying to peacefully protest, and people get crazy. Thank for the police.
Are you serious? You're gonna see him promote this stuff and you want to get pissed when they rip it up?
Exactly, thank you. Thank you.
You want to see him promote this?
This promotes violence against transgender people, like myself. Do you know how many fucking times a day
I don't know what it says, but I'm just saying you're
Yeah, I don't even know what it said, but that's not your property though.
Well, technically, they put it out here to see it.
I already did it. What do you want to do?
Like, here, I'll
So do you have the right to destroy someone else's property?
Yeah, so I would say is that you should come to the, we have an event on Wednesday, Rasher Christian. So we're doing Is Abortion and Justice? We're just one organization. Yeah.
It's a giant free speech event.
Okay, so these organizations which promote free speech. So my organization is not in it. So we're having a discussion on Wednesday. We have flyers in there. 7:30.
I got one. It's hard to pull those ones down. Let's not litter, guys. Yeah, you're right.
Do you have the right to destroy someone else's property though?
Is it your property?
Yes.
Does it have your name on it?
So? My shirt doesn't have my name on it.
That's unfortunate. It's on your body. I'm not going to stick it there. I don't want to see it.
I think there'd be a difference if it actually posed a question, but it kind of...
I don't even know what it said.
It said like abortion is murder.
There's a difference between freedom of speech and hate speech on campus.
I didn't know what it said, but I just when people start destroying property.
So they just destroyed all this.
What's your argument?
Picture on, huh?
What's your argument?
I just know that one of them said abortion is murder,
That one said, gender pay gap is a Harry Potter. I think one of them was about trans lives, and Daniel was we're the queer community, so of course we're not going to shut down. Because tons of people that are queer die every single day just for being queer. Like people are getting murdered. I didn't rip anything up, and I don't necessarily agree with ripping it up, because I would probably, in my opinion, I probably just would have written something else. I have but I mean, like, I'm not gonna lie, I saw someone who said, No, it wasn't fun. Oh, why would I put something next to it?
No, you said the one that said trans.
This one said there's only two genders.
You put something next to it instead of ripping it up. You said if it said something else, then you would rip it up. Why is that?
It just depends on what it says to me, in my opinion. Like, if it promotes things like...
Yeah, well, I get what you guys are trying to like make sense here, but pose it as questions or something. Don't put up these comeback hate speech.
It becomes like a moral thing. Like, people don't deserve to be told that they're... Like, it's the whole thing with, like, it's like the whole thing, there's when someone said, like the whole thing with Nazis. And they're recording it. Because like, yeah, I agree with that, but it just becomes different when you're talking about people not, like, people don't matter.
No, I understand what you're saying. My question is, when is on the line? If that was the case, then...
I think it comes, I think there's a line between an opinion and something that's just downright wrong when you're talking about hurting a whole entire group of people, or like...
What do you mean downright wrong? Because wrong doesn't really mean...
Well, she didn't rip it up, I don't think.
No, she didn't.
It was, okay.
She was against it.
It was other individuals.
Yeah.
I didn't. Whoa, no.
There was another individual too.
I was in the video, but I didn't touch your sign. I didn't touch your sign.
I think I'm on video.
You got
Abortion is murder. It says pay gap, Harry Potter, fantasy, it said gender equals science or something. You don't believe this, right? I don't. Okay, that's fine. Why not actually make an argument? But it's so problematic.
So look, alright, it was her and that the girl in the back right there watched.
Are you serious?
Boom.
Yeah, she did in front of you.
She's gone now. She left.
We have a picture of her. And her friend will know her.
The problem because the signs weren't hurting.
It was just actually two individuals, I think. I mean, there's not people around them, people who were just ripping it up.
Yeah. Can you come here a second?
Is there a reason?
Wait, what?
Do you have your ID on?
Wait,
no, I do not.
You don't have your ID on?
I don't.
Yes.
Did you tell her to stand up for what?
She's fine, just relax.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
What's your name?
Can I know why I'm getting in trouble?
You helped tear up a sign.
Okay.
Which is a crime.
How?
Because of someone else's property.
Is it? Whose was it?
It belongs to him.
May I see the receipt for it?
Oh my God! You want to do this way? I can take you to jail if you don't identify yourself. That's how this works.
My name is
Tor.
Tor.
How is it a crime that they were publicly displaying
hate
speech? I'll tell you what. How is that a crime? You and you walk over to my car, and we're going to talk away from all these other people, so that we can have a conversation without anybody else interrupting in our private business. So let's walk over to my car. You're either going to walk to my car. Let's walk to my car. Pull them up and put it back in the neighborhood. Thank you. Hey, ask him if we can come over there. He's trying to do it privately. But we paid for it, though.
I'm staying out of it.
I would not go over there.
Scotty has joined us now. Hi, Scotty. Thanks for coming in. Just give us your verdicts, in essence here. Is male superiority, is it confined to an anachronistic corner of our gender, or is it hardwired into the male brain?
I think it's much darker than that. I think it's much sinister than that. I think men in this country, and let's talk about this country, men are socialized to be a hegemonic version of masculinity. So they're told they have to be violent, that they have to dominate, that they are to be leaders. And we've created cultures that endorse that. And so we're witnessing the effects of that. And I think what's really important to say when we're looking at that short film, which is quite a light-hearted look at some horrific things that have come to light in the last couple of weeks. But this idea that somehow that these have just emerged, that these thoughts have just come out, like women have been telling us for decades this stuff's going on, and so we've got to understand that there's going to be this rage, there is going to be this anger and this backlash, that all of this conversation is about, oh, let's say sorry, oh, you know, oh, my daughters, or yes, it's now time to listen to women. Look, women have been saying this for a long time.
Yes, they have.
It's disgraceful.
They have.
It's embarrassing, actually, that we've got like prolific Hollywood film stars who are saying it's now time that we listen to women. Actually, we need to do more than that. You know, like, it would be really easy and in their capacity to be able to sign contracts in which they see the contracts of other women that are playing alongside them and make sure they're being paid the same
And you don't see any signs of attitudes changing. Is it a generational thing to any degree at all?
I think it's far too simplistic. I think my daily experience as a big, fat, queer femme of like existing in this world is one of violence, of people taking photographs of me in public space, of trucks veering onto the road so people can shout out expletives at me, of having like every day having a series of being ridiculed. In fact, actually, I was on the phone to the non-emergency police line reporting a homophobic hate crime whilst another was taking place to me. That is how much I and other people like me have to deal with. So if we ask if this is generational, no, this is happening. This is actually happening. And what I want us to do is get beyond just saying that, oh, maybe it's just banter, or maybe this is just like what masculinity is about. We've got to start really critiquing this and start looking at it. And I guess that's what I'm trying to do with my artworks around the country, is have conversations that go beyond the echo chamber.
You do what you do with your arts. Have you got anything else by way of a solution or the beginnings of an answer to how to make things better from your point of view?
Well, that's a difficult question, because, you know, like, how is me, who is, you know, to some extent, like, I am a victim of masculinity in a way because of the aggressions that I put up with on a day-to-day basis. Why is it that, like, us, why is it like queer, trans, non-binary people, why is it us who's got to come up with the theories to be eloquent enough to be able to say, this is how we disable toxic masculinity? Actually, this has got to come from within. Men have got to acknowledge their privilege, and I want them to hand over power, and also I want them to hand over some platform. I'm really up for like trying a matriarchy. We've done patriarchy for a long time, hasn't really worked.
Okay, Michael, what do you think? Because obviously I'm completely enlightened. I don't need to be told about this.
I think I've heard a great deal of rubbish in the last few moments. I mean, men are not trained to be dominant and violent. I was trained to obey a woman who was my leader, who was Margaret Thatcher. And in the present world, we have a female...
Tories love to do that.
We have a female queen, we have a female prime minister.
A female queen, a woman who was unelected.
We have a female first minister of Scotland. We have a female leader of the Conservative Party in Scotland. We have a female leader of the Labour Party in Scotland. I just don't recognise the picture you're painting at all.
You don't recognise the misogynies that we're currently experiencing in the world. I can tell you...
And what is more, if there's one thing that has been remarkable about the last 20 years, it has been the emancipation of gay people. We now have gay marriage. We've had... What? Well, we don't have gay marriage?
No, we do have
what
gay
What
marriage.
do you say? You're not saying there's been a transformation?
Yeah. I'll tell you what would be a good idea.
There hasn't been a transformation.
My daily experience.
Hello, my name is Jane. I'm social justice waste. Agree with me or you'll be shamed. Hello, my name is Jane. I'm social justice